let me share my slide and then I'll give a short introduction to what I'm going to do today. I'm going to talk about the Weaver's Daughter. This is the story behind a very famous Dhammapada 174. And the Dhammapada goes like this. The world is indeed blind. Few are those who deeply see. Like the birds escaping from a net, few will go to heaven. So in what context, why did the Buddha utter these words? I would like to read a story from this book by E.W. Burlingame from, I think it's from Buddhist Publication Society. It's actually translated from the Pali by E.W. Burlingame, and they were selected by Bhikkhu Kantipalo. It's based on the Dhammapada commentary. Okay, so it's Dhammapada 174. So every Dhammapada, when you read it, it's very inspiring. There's a lot of meaning to it, but you have to understand. You have to know the stories behind it. Then you can deeply appreciate what the Buddha meant when he mentioned those words. So I'm going to read. It's 4.5 pages. It may be around 15 minutes. So please bear with me. I'll read it as loud and as clearly as I can. Okay. The Weaver's Daughter. This world is indeed blind. This instruction was given by the teacher while he was in residence at Agalawa Shrine with reference to a certain weaver's daughter. For one day, when the teacher came to Alawi, the residents of Alawi invited him to a meal and gave alms. At the end of the meal, the teacher spoke the words of thanksgiving, saying, "Practice meditation on death, saying to yourselves, uncertain is my life, certain is my death. I shall surely die. Death will be the termination of my life. Life is unstable. Death is sure. For they that have not practiced meditation on death will tremble and fear when their last hour comes, and will die screaming screams of terror, even as a man without a stick on seeing a snake is stricken with fear. But those who have practiced meditation on death will have no fear when their last hour comes, but will be like a steadfast man who, seeing a snake even afar off, takes it up with his stick and tosses it away. Therefore, practice meditation on death." With a single exception, all those who heard this discourse remained absorbed in their worldly duties as before. Only a single weaver's daughter, about 16 years of age, said to herself, "Marvelous indeed is the speech of the Buddhas. It behooves me to practice meditation on death." And she did nothing else but practice meditation on death day and night. The teacher left Alawi and went to Jetavana. Then that maiden for 3 years developed just the meditation on death. Now, one day, as the teacher surveyed the world at early dawn, he perceived that this maiden had entered the net of his knowledge. When he saw her, he considered within himself, "What will happen?" And he became aware of the following. From the day when this maiden heard my discourse on the Dhamma, she has practiced meditation on death for 3 years. I will now go to Alawi and ask this maiden 4 questions. On each of the 4 points, she will answer me correctly, and I will congratulate her. I will then pronounce the stanza, "This world is indeed blind." At the conclusion of the stanza, she will be established in the fruit of stream entry. By reason of her, my discourse will be profitable to the multitude besides. So the teacher, with his retinue of 500 monks, departed from Jetavana and in due course arrived at the Cakkavala monastery. When the people of Alawi heard that the teacher had come, they went to the monastery and invited him to be their guest. That maiden also heard that he had come, and her heart was filled with joy at the thought. Here has come, so people say, one that is my father, my master, my teacher, one whose countenance is like the full moon, the mighty Gautama Buddha. And she reflected, now, for the first time in 3 years, I am to see the teacher, the hue of whose body is as the hue of gold. Now I am to be permitted to behold his body, whose hue is as the hue of gold, and to hear him preach the sublime Dhamma, containing within itself all sweetness. But her father, on his way to the workshop, said to her, Daughter, a garment for a customer is on the loom, and a span of it is yet incomplete. I must finish it today. Quickly replenish the shuttle and bring it to me. Thought the maiden, it was my desire to hear the teacher preach the Dhamma, but my father has thus addressed me. Shall I hear the teacher preach the Dhamma, or replenish the shuttle and carry it to my father? Then this thought occurred to her. If I should fail to bring my father the shuttle, he would strike me and beat me. Therefore, I will first replenish the shuttle and give it to him, and wait until afterwards to hear the Dhamma. So she sat down on a stool and replenished the shuttle. The people of Alawi waited upon the teacher and provided him with food, and when the meal was over, took his bowl and stood waiting for him to speak the words of rejoicing with the merits of the donors. Said the teacher, I came here on a journey of 30 leagues for the sake of a certain maiden. As yet she finds no opportunity to be present. When she finds the opportunity to be present, I will speak the words of rejoicing. Having so said, he sat down and remained silent. Likewise, his hearers also remained silent. When the teacher is silent, neither men nor gods dare utter a word, utter a sound. When the maiden had replenished the shuttle, she put it in her basket and set out in the direction of her father's workshop. On her way, she stopped in the outer circle of the congregation and stood gazing at the teacher. The teacher also lifted up his head and gazed at her. By his manner of gazing at her, she knew. The teacher, sitting in such a congregation, signifies by gazing at me that he desires me to come, that his sole desire is that I come into his very presence. So she set her shuttle basket on the ground and went into the presence of the teacher. But why did the teacher gaze at her? The following thought, we are told, occurred to him. If this maiden leaves, she will die as a worldling, and her future state will be uncertain. But if she comes to me, she will depart established in the fruit of stream entry, and her future state will be certain, for she will be reborn in the world of the Tusita gods. We are told that there was no escape from death for her that day. At the mere hint of his look, she approached the teacher, and penetrating the rays of six-colored light that shone from his body, she paid obeisance to him and stood respectfully at one side. No sooner had she paid obeisance to the teacher and taken her stand beside him, seated in silence in the midst of the assemblage, there gathered together. Then he thus addressed her. Maiden, from where do you come? I do not know, Reverend Sir. Where are you going? I do not know, Reverend Sir. Do you not know? I know, Reverend Sir. Do you know? I do not know, Reverend Sir. Thus the teacher asked her 4 questions. The multitude were offended and said, Look, this daughter of a weaver talks as she pleases with the supremely enlightened one. When he asked her, from where do you come? She should have answered, from the weaver's house. And when he asked her, where are you going? She should have answered, to the weaver's workshop. The teacher put the multitude to silence and asked her, Maiden, when I asked you, from where do you come? Why did you say, I do not know? She answered, Reverend Sir, you yourself know that I came from the house of my father, a weaver. So, when you asked me, from where do you come? I knew very well that your meaning was, from where did you come when you were reborn here? But as for me, from where I came when I was reborn here, that I do not know. Then the teacher said to her, well said, O maiden. You have answered correctly the question I asked you. Thus did the teacher congratulate her, and having done so, he asked her yet another question. When I asked you, where are you going? Why did you say, I do not know? Reverend Sir, you yourself know that I was going to the weaver's workshop with my shuttle basket in hand. So when you asked me, where are you going? I knew very well that your meaning was, when you pass away, where will you be reborn? But as for me, where I shall be reborn when I have passed from this present existence, that I do not know. Then the teacher said to her, you have answered correctly the question I asked you. Thus did the teacher congratulate her the second time, and having so done, asked her yet another question. When I asked you, do you not know? Why did you say, I know? Reverend Sir, this I know, that I shall surely die, and therefore I said so. Then the teacher said to her, you have answered correctly the question I asked you. Thus did the teacher congratulate her the third time, and having done so, he asked her yet another question. When I asked you, do you know? Why did you say, I do not know? This only do I know, Reverend Sir, that I shall surely die. But at what time I shall die, whether in the night or in the daytime, whether in the morning or at some other time, that I do not know. And therefore I said so. Then said the teacher to her, you have answered correctly the question I asked you. Thus did the teacher congratulate her the fourth time, and having so done, addressed the assemblage as follows. Those among you who failed to understand the words she spoke, you only were offended. For those who lack the eye of understanding, they only are blind. Those who possess the eye of understanding, they only see. So saying, he pronounced the following stanza. This world is indeed blind. Few are those who deeply see. Like birds escaping from a net, few will go to heaven. At the conclusion of the discourse, that maiden was established in the fruit of stream entry. Then the maiden took her shuttle basket and went to her father. He was asleep even as he sat at the loom. Not observing that he was asleep, she presented the shuttle basket. As she did so, the basket hit the tip of the loom and fell with a clatter. Her father awoke and accidentally, as a result of taking hold of the loom, gave it a pull, whereupon the tip of the loom swung around and struck the maiden in the breast. Then and there she died and was reborn in the world of the Tusita gods. Her father looked at her as she lay there, her whole body spotted with blood, and saw that she was dead. Straightway there arose within him intense grief, wailing, there is none other that can extinguish my grief. He went to the teacher and told him what had happened. Reverend Sir, said he, extinguish my grief. The teacher comforted him, saying, grieve not, disciple, for in the round of existences without conceivable beginning, you have even thus, over the death of your daughter, shed tears more abundant than the water contained in the 4 great oceans. In this way, the teacher discoursed on the round of existences without conceivable beginning. The disciple's grief was assuaged, and he requested the teacher for the going forth. Afterwards, he gained acceptance into the order, and in no long time attained arahatship. So, thank you for your patience listening to the long story. I like this story very much because it feels to me like a movie, like a theater. There's a story behind it, and it gives some kind of a flesh and blood to the weaver's daughter, the assembly of people who could not understand the very cryptic answers that the weaver's daughter gave, and the very cryptic questions that the Buddha asked, and also give us a kind of a glimpse into the method used by the Buddha, where early in the morning he would enter into Mahakaruna Samapatti and then survey the world to see who is ripe. And he traveled for so far from Jetavana to Alawi, 30, there's a measurement that he leaks, I think, that he described, to receive alms. And then after receiving alms, he told the assembly that he's here for a certain person, so he will speak only when she is here. And when he's very silent sitting there, nobody dared to say a word. So that was the atmosphere in the presence of the Buddha. When the Buddha is in front of us, nobody utter a word when he's silent. And the weaver's daughter appears to me an example of a good disciple. After hearing the Buddha, she sincerely practiced what was taught by the Buddha. And the Buddha taught Marananusati, mindfulness of death. And for 3 years, she practiced day and night, only on the idea that I will surely die and it's uncertain and so on, as described by the Buddha. And when the Buddha came, because he was ready, and the Buddha asked him 4 questions, and he answered them correctly. Why did he answer correctly? My friends, my Dhamma friends, I was telling them the stories. They felt that the weaver's daughter mind is very pure. His only idea was about the certainty of death and the uncertainty of rebirth and samsara. So when the Buddha asked those questions, immediately he knew what was the intent of the questions, and he could answer correctly. And then the assembly, because they were not primed, because 3 years ago the Buddha spoke about the mindfulness of death, but they didn't quite practice. They were still absorbed in their daily life. So when the Buddha asked those questions, they couldn't connect. And they were offended by the weaver's daughter, thinking that she was rude. So that was the story. And then the Dhammapada about the world is blind, few will deeply see, like the birds escaping from the net, few will go to heaven. So in this Dhammapada, I like to share with us my own reflection, and also related to some of the practice that we do, and then to explore what is this blindness. And when he said what we see, those who deeply see, what is it that those who deeply see, and like the birds escaping from the net, and what is this net? Okay, so this story is very rich. It covers the reality of samsara, and it covers marananusati, mindfulness of death. So let us explore samsara. So if you understand this story, the story that the weaver's daughter was really saying that when the Buddha asked her, where did you come? The weaver's daughter know that it definitely, the Buddha did not really mean, because the Buddha know I came from my father's house. the weaver's house. But surely he didn't ask me that. Surely he must be asking me, where did I come before I was born here? And she did not know. And where can it be? So according to the Buddha's teachings found in the suttas as well as in the Abhidhamma as well as the commentary text, is all of these planes, okay, from the woeful planes like hell, animal, ghosts, to asura, to humans, four great kings, Tawatingsa heaven, Yama heaven, Tusita heaven, Nama Nimanarati heaven, and Paranimita Vasavati heaven, and then many layers of Brahma realms, and then the Arupa Brahma realms. Okay, so these are the Arupa Brahma realms. So there are many places that beings can come from, and we don't know where it is, where we came from. And then the Buddha asked the next question: where are you going? So surely the Buddha was not asking, were you, because he knew that he's going to the workshop, but the weaver's girl know that the Buddha is asking, after death, where will you be reborn? The weaver's daughter doesn't know. So he said, I don't know. And so it can be any of these. There is so much uncertainty, okay? And so the weaver's daughter know what that he didn't know, where he came from, where will he go? Where will she go? And she's only knowing that she will definitely die. Even when she's going to die, she also doesn't know. So because of that, you can sense that her mind is very pure, very humble, and always mindful of this reality of death. So life is very precious, and she's full of reverence and respectful living. And a mind like that is very wholesome. Huh? Okay, so here I like to, many of you I recognize are very old members of, very senior members of BDMS, and you have been learning the Dhamma for a long time. So I'm going to share with you some case studies of meditators in the meditation, forest meditation centers that I attended about 20 over years, maybe less than 20 years ago, 2001 to 2005. At that time, there was a document circulated of compilation of past life stories of some of the bhikkhus, but it's in Chinese. I had that copy, but last night I couldn't find it. I wanted to share, and I searched online. It's actually found online. It's in Chinese. So I will share it out here. Then I'll explain in Chinese. For some of us may not understand may not be able to read, but I'll translate into English. Okay, I will stop share this and then I'll open the Word document. Some of the people described here, I actually think I know them. I met them, but they never say their names. Okay, the first one was a bhikkhu. I'll just explain to you this particular practice. My teacher and her teacher, they were from the Shuejin branch of Burmese bhikkhu order. Shuejin branch are those that follow the forest tradition, and so my teacher is Sayalay Dipankara and her teacher is Pa Auk Sayadaw. So they practice according to the Pali Canon, respecting the Abhidhamma as well as Visuddhimagga. And in the particular way that we are taught, there is a certain systematic approach to the practice that practitioners need to keep at least 5 precepts for lay people. And for the monks, 227 Vinaya rules. And when we're in a retreat, we are all encouraged to take the 8 precepts. So using the precepts as a basis, we'll practice meditation. And in this particular lineage of forest tradition, they emphasize the practice of samadhi to the degree of jhana. And and although we know that first jhana is, even excess concentration is sometimes good enough for people to progress, to do deeper insight meditation. But Pa Auk Sayadaw and his disciples prefer that the disciples go all the way to practice the jhana until 8 jhanas. Usually it is using Anapanasati to begin. Then after 4th jhana of Anapanasati, practice the 32 parts of the body. And then using the skeleton to absorb into 1st jhana. And then use the white color to practice white kasina. And using white kasina, the meditators will practice until the 8th jhana. And then we'll go on to use the fat in the body to practice yellow kasina, blood to practice red kasina, the color of the iris or the hair to practice brown kasina, and then earth, water, fire, and wind kasina, light kasina, and space kasina to practice 8 jhana. The reason was that although it's not necessary, it is good practice because being very skillful in practicing jhana is very useful when we practice vipassana. Okay, so that was the practice. And then after the practice of the jhana, we practice analyzing, we practice some protective meditation like loving kindness, mindfulness on death, mindfulness of a corpse, and then mindfulness of the Buddha's quality. These are the 4 protective meditation. And then we embark on practicing the material phenomenon, feeling the sensations of the body in terms of earth, water, fire, and wind to understand material phenomenon in the world. And then after that, we will meditate on the mental phenomenon. After that, the disciples will be guided to practice recalling the past. The purpose of recalling the past is not to dwell and delight in the past. The purpose of recalling the past is to understand how the previous causes and conditions determine the present situations. And also to understand the present causes and conditions, how it will influence future situations. So it is through this that the students are guided to recall the past from 1 day ago to 2 days ago to 1 week ago to 1 month ago, 2 months ago, 1 year ago, 10 years ago, all the way to your childhood and all the way to the mother's womb and then to the beginning of the conception of this life. And from there, we practice until we can penetrate to see the life before this in order to examine dependent origination. Okay, and these are examples of monks who have practiced dependent origination, and then examples of their past lives. So through this, it is helpful for us because we can actually see that there is indeed past lives before these lives, and the patterns of the lives, really there is a certain predictable pattern related to karma, and also grounded in defilements. So it's defilements and karma determine the life and existence one after another. So in a way, our destiny and our fortune is determined by the things we did in the past, largely. Of course, also things we do in the present life, but it's also determined by things we do in the past. So by looking at these life stories, we can actually see a certain pattern and drift. But also, the second useful thing is that it can actually give us an understanding that this life, no matter how glorious, how proud, or how unhappy we may feel, it is so small, compared with so many, many lives that we have lived in the past. Okay, so this is actually what most people in the world are blind to, described by the Buddha in that particular Dhammapada. So let us examine a few of them. Okay, so this is the first bhikkhu. Okay, this bhikkhu, Current life, he is a bhikkhu. His memory is not very good. And then over 3.5 years, he finished all the samatha and vipassana course. Okay, but why is his memory not very good? Why is he a bhikkhu? Okay, let's look at it. The previous life, immediate past, he was a crab. Okay, how did the crab become a bhikkhu? Because he saw a bhikkhu flying, and then the crab has a certain sense of reverence for the bhikkhu. So when he died, he had this sign of karma of a bhikkhu. And then the sign of karma was that he has a sense of wholesome mind, a respect for the bhikkhu. Later, I'm going to go through dependent origination. Then you can, in my subsequent slides, then we can actually understand this. Then before the crab, he was a buffalo. The buffalo did a lot of work, is very tired. So the karma was that he was unhappy that the owner did not give him water. He's very thirsty. So he died of thirst. So the unhappiness, aversion mind continue him to become a crab. And then before the buffalo was a goat. Before the goat was a duck. Before the duck was a bhikkhu in China who practiced the 10 kasina and 8 samapati, and he's able to practice psychic power. In the mountain, he can fly, and then when he died, all the psychic powers and his kuti was lost, and he had aversion mind, dosa mind. He died on a tree, and then he saw some flying ducks. Because of the sign of death was the sound of the duck, and his karma was actually he had a lot of ignorance. Despite he's got very deep concentration, he's got a lot of ignorance, and he's got this sadness before he died. And this resulted him reborn as a duck. And the duck could not fly, was killed by an eagle. Because of the anger mind, he wanted to become big, and then because of the anger mind, he was reborn as a goat, and so on. So this is one example. Another one was also quite interesting. Another one was an Israeli, a Jewish layperson. I think I might have met him. Let me see his story. Okay. This gentleman was in the forest in 1993 and 94. He's an Israeli layperson. He liked to do meditation, so he went to Thailand to explore different teachers. But he wasn't satisfied with their teaching. Then he went to Burma and learned the Mahasi method and Goenka, but he felt unsatisfied. Then he went to Pa Auk, and then, but his practice was fast, apparently. And initially, in the past life, he actually wanted to practice the Bodhisattva path. But this life, he wants to, he has changed his mind. He wants to be fully enlightened as an arahant. Okay, so why did he happen this way? So you can explore the past. 5 lives ago, he was a bhikkhu during the Buddha's time. He heard the Dhamma and he practiced until the last stages of insight meditation, which is Sankhara Upekha Jnana. Okay, the insight of equanimity towards all formations. And then he asked the Buddha, is it better to be a Buddha, a Sammasambuddha, or better to be an Arahant? So he wanted to be a Bodhisattva path, he wanted to practice Bodhisattva path. But the Buddha did not confirm him. The Buddha, Gautama Buddha said, you decide, okay? So then he made a determination to be Sammasambuddha, to be a Buddha. So Upon death, his death proximate object was Brahma realm. And then when he died, he was practicing jhana. So after that life, he was reborn as a Brahma. As a Brahma, he couldn't practice. And because he wanted to be Bodhisattva, he reflected that I can't stay in Brahma realm for too long. I need to go back to either human realm or animal realm to perfect the parami of becoming a Sama Sambuddha. Excuse me. So he made a determination to pass away from the Brahma realm and was reborn in Sri Lanka. That life, he became a bhikkhu. During that period, based on the description, it was a time when the Dhamma and the Buddha Sasana was very strong in Sri Lanka. Even at that time, there were many arahants, and he had a title of a Dhamma teacher. And there was once he was arguing with an arahant about Magga and Phala, which are stages of enlightenment. And he was very academic. Apparently, he had he understood a lot of theories, whereas the arahat was explaining his own practice, and he was arguing with the arahat. Okay, and he actually scolded the arahat, and but after he passed away in that life, he saw a rebirth as a human, and the supporting karma was that he was pure in his precept. Because of that, he was a human. And in this life, according to the detailed description, he was in some kind of Muslim country. Okay, he remembered he was involved in the Iran-Iraq war, and he was a soldier, and he killed people. He was killed, and after that he was reborn in hell, only for a short while because of his good karma. And this life he was reborn in Israel, and even as a young man, he wanted to practice a lot of meditation, and then he went to Thailand, explore, and so on. So he wanted to be arahat in this life. So there are other stories. There are 23 of them that were captured. And then some of them talk about the future lives. Usually, future is a projection. They are not determined. They are not fixed. It's just based on whatever you have. You practice using deep concentration and just go forward, and one day ahead, 2 days, and so on, and to see what actually happened in the future. And that's how some of them saw in the future they got 1 life left, 2 lives, 3 lives, or many lives left before they become fully enlightened. So I will just share just 2 stories because I just wanted to illustrate samsara. It's important because if we study Buddha's teachings without accepting or believing in past lives and future lives, the Buddha's teachings is only helpful when our life is still good. When the life is really tough and difficult, we really need to, we will have many questions related to purpose, meaning, and the whys. Why are we here? Why am I doing this? If you don't have the understanding of past lives and future lives, you may be stuck at this question. And then it can be really difficult. So that is when non-Buddhists believe in creator and heaven and hell. Buddhists, we believe in birth and rebirth and heaven, hell, and so on, and samsara, and that all these are impermanent, they are suffering, they are non-self, and because of this understanding, we will believe that the only thing meaningful is to make an end of suffering. And we will know that if we die, it is not death, it is actually a re-death. Okay? when we die, we are not dead, we are just reborn. Every death is a rebirth. And it is a rebirth, it's not a birth. So every baby is born, is not a birth, it's actually a rebirth. Every kitten, every fish, every chick that's being hatched is a rebirth. And every person who passed away, our grandparents, maybe our parents, maybe our spouses and friends, when they die, it is a rebirth. So same for us. When we pass away, it is a re-death, it is also a rebirth. This is an important understanding for Buddhists. If there should be any subject of faith, this is the subject of faith. And if we do not see this, we will be like a bird caught in the net, never free. So, like what the Buddha was admonishing, everybody, those of you who laugh at her answer, at the maiden's answer, because you do not understand that samsara is uncertain. You are born, this is not the first time you're born. You are actually reborn from somewhere. You do not know where you are born. And when you die, you do not know where you're going. Okay? And you do not know when you're going to pass away. So it is through understanding of samsara that all of us have the chance of breaking free. Okay? So, most of the time when we study Buddhist teachings, we take samsara, birth, rebirth, as a theory, because we don't really remember our past lives, and we haven't met anyone who remember their past lives. Even those who do, they usually don't share, because people may not have faith. And some Buddhists, whenever they come to this topic, they will just keep quiet about it, because it's very hard to prove scientifically, even though there are stories of young children who recall their past lives, and scientifically no other explanation. Okay, there are a lot of these stories being recorded, and also there are circumstantial evidence, such as some people very young already can play musical instruments, can do mathematics, can even compose symphony, and also twins, same parents, same upbringing, same set of DNA, but they got different character, different personality. So there are these circumstantial evidence to say that they are past lives. And there are circumstantial evidence in those near-death experience of a future rebirth as well. So I'm spending some time to talk about this, because I believe this is the theme of that particular piece of Dhammapada, that the Buddha says those who are blind, they are very blind. If they don't see this, they'll be very blind. No? Okay, now I'll carry on with the implication of all this. So, if we understand that aging, sickness, and re-death, and many of us, especially as we become older and older, we become more aware that our life is not permanent. It will come to an end. So this sometimes can create a sense of suffering for us. Okay? And we need to understand the why. So why do we have to age? Why must we suffer sickness? And why must we die? Because we were born. Birth is a rebirth. Okay? Why are we reborn? Because there is becoming. Because there is a karmic force that's not yet ended. It needs to bear fruit in an existence, in a becoming. So why is there this karmic force that result in becoming into an existence? Because we have clinging. Clinging to what? Clinging to sensual pleasures. Clinging to views. Clinging to self. Clinging to existence. Okay? Because of this clinging, our karmic force will drive us to continue existence After we die, we will be reborn because we cling on to existence, cling on to sensual pleasures, cling on to views, and cling on to ourself. And why is that clinging? Because of attachment, because of craving. Craving for sensual pleasures, craving for existence, craving for non-existence. And why is that craving? Because we have feelings. Okay? We are all sentient beings. Sentient beings have feelings. Huh? Feelings, either pleasant feelings, unpleasant feelings, or neutral feelings. Whenever there's pleasant feelings, we cling. Whenever we have unpleasant feelings, we cling on to pleasant feelings even more. Okay? And why is there feelings? Because of contact. Why are there contact? Because of having 6 sense bases: the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. When you have these sense doors, you cannot avoid contact. When you have contact, you must have feelings. When you have feelings and you have defilements, you will have craving. Okay, when you have craving, you have clinging. So why are there 6 sense bases? Because we have mind and body when we were reborn. When there's mind and body, there will be 6 sense bases. Why is there mind and body? Because there is still a rebirth linking consciousness that was resulted from the volition of the previous existence. And why was there volition? Karmic force. Why is there karma, karmic force volition? Because there is beginningless ignorance. So if you understand the Four Noble Truths, the Buddha talked about the first noble truth being dukkha. And then he talked about the cause of dukkha. Why is there dukkha? Because of samudaya, which is craving. And the craving is associated with ignorance. Craving, clinging, and ignorance, these are the 3 roots, 3 defilements. Because of these 3 roots, we are helplessly going round and round and round in samsara. This 12 link of dependent origination refers to 3 lives. Actually, it's many, many lives, but they have this mechanism. And this is part and parcel of dukkha, of suffering. Suffering is not just the fact that, oh, I got pain, or that I have to separate from my loved ones, or I have to be with some people I hate. So it's not just that. It is the helpless, beginningless cycle of existence. After we are born, we die. After we die, we are born. After we are born, we die, So continuously, these incessant rounds of existence, up and down, up and down. So this is dukkha. And the causation of dukkha is samudaya. The Buddha in the first sutta, the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, he emphasized craving. Okay? But in another sutta, in Anguttara Nikaya, called the 3 sectarian views, he described the second noble truth as the 12 link of dependent origination. So while the craving is the root of suffering, the 12 links are the mechanism of suffering, of how suffering came about. Okay. So when the weaver's daughter, when the Buddha asked, where did you come from? The weaver's daughter, maybe at that time, she was in front of the Buddha. There's mind and body. There is 6 sense bases. There's contact to the Buddha and the feeling of joy. Okay. So he's with the Buddha. Okay. At that time. And then when the Buddha asked him, where were you from? She didn't know what was the volition of the past lives. She don't know where she came from. Okay. Where are you going? She don't know where will she be reborn. Okay. She don't know all this. And do you not know? She knows she will surely die, because as long as you're born, you will die. Okay. And do you know where? Do you know when? You don't know, because you don't know the workings of karma. The karma can obstruct our life at any time. So this is the 12 link of dependent origination implied in the weaver's daughter story. Next, let's examine the ending of this and what actually happened to the weaver's daughter. When she heard the Buddha, of course, when you hear the Buddha, your mind is so wholesome. When the mind is wholesome, you don't have craving. If there's anything, you have aspiration, you have faith, you have a lot of mindfulness. So he was in front of the Buddha. And the Buddha, in front of the Buddha, he has been taught the mindfulness on death. So he's actually practicing the path leading to the cessation of suffering. And what is there? Is Sila, Samadhi, Panya. The mindfulness of death is the practice of Samadhi. Okay? The weaver's daughter, always mindful of death, we can assume that her precept, 5 precepts is pure enough, okay? Good enough for her to have good concentration. Mindfulness of death can lead us to excess concentration. Excess concentration to some people, those with very good parami, good practice in the past, especially somebody sitting in front of the Buddha. Sitting in front of Buddha and sitting in front of the computer screen is different. Sitting in front of Buddha and sitting in front of a whirling teacher is different. The Buddha, so much faith, you have so much inspiration. And then the light of the Buddha, the metta, the karuna of the Buddha is very powerful. It can grip our heart and make our heart peaceful. So the weaver's daughter, I am assuming, I don't know as certain, mindful on death, right? So her mind is very pure. In front of the Buddha, so much faith on the Buddha. Maybe at that time, she was having mindfulness on the quality of the Buddha so that the mind is very pure, excess concentration. There is samadhi. When the Buddha described, where did you come from? Where are you going? Do you not know? Do you know? She must be contemplating on these things. And then as the Buddha talked about, the world is indeed blind, not knowing the samsara, and so on. So in front of the Buddha, she must have experienced the whole samsara again, and then realize that they are impermanent suffering non-self. So there and then, she must have practiced within the next few minutes vipassana in front of the Buddha, and it's good enough for her to penetrate until she realize the stream entry, path, and fruit. So when she was in front of the Buddha, there was samadhi, and she's been practicing Marananusati, mindfulness of death, for 3 years. So at that time, with the Buddha's short guidance and the question, helping her to see dependent origination, she actually see them as impermanent suffering non-self, and through that, she could arrive at wisdom. So when you have wisdom, your ignorance is eradicated enough to realize Nibbana, okay? And then with the ignorance eradicated until arahatship, when you're a stream enterer, there's still ignorance. It's not totally eradicated. Only arahatship, there is complete eradication of ignorance. Then the rest of the 12 links can be cut. No more rebirth, okay? No more rebirth, no samudaya, so no dukkha, okay? And then what we have is Nirodha. Nirodha is the third noble truth. Okay? The first noble truth is dukkha. The second noble truth is samudaya. The fourth noble truth is dukkha gamini patipada, right? Dukkha nirodha gamini patipada means the path leading to the end of suffering. And that leads to the third noble truth, which is Nirodha. So Nirodha is Nibbana. Okay, the third noble truth is Nibbana. And like what Venerable Sariputta says, happiness is this friend, Nibbana. Happiness is this friend, Nibbana. So this is how, like a bird released from the net, only very few. Because many people do not understand the workings of samsara. They don't even realize that they are in the midst of samsara. Okay. This is taken from Visuddhimagga, compiled from Samyutta Nikaya S. Okay, SN is Sutta Nipata, and JA is Jataka stories. So I shall read this because they are very very beautiful. Okay. The nights and days go slipping by as life keeps dwindling steadily, till mortals span like water pools. In failing reels is all used up. So our life is like a pool of water. Every day it evaporates until one day it's all dry. Okay? As there is fear when fruits are ripe, that in the morning they will fall. So mortals are in constant fear when they are born that they will die. And as the fate of pots of clay, once fashioned by the potter's hand, or small or big or baked or raw, condemns them to be broken up. So mortal's life leads but to death. Sutta. This is very interesting. When the fruit is ripe, we have fear. So maybe some of us have experiencing midlife crisis, or after maybe certain age. Okay lah, there's only one direction. Yeah, sorry to bring this up, but this is the Buddha's teachings. It's for us to reflect that that is certain, so that we have a sense of urgency for the practice, and also not just urgency, also humility of our life. Then the last stanza is from Jataka's story. The dewdrop on a blade of grass vanishes when the sun comes up. Such is a human span of life. So mother, do not hinder me. So this is very interesting. Dewdrop on a blade of grass is very, very short-lived. So fast. But our human life is not so fast. It's like maybe 70 years, maybe 80 years, maybe 100 years. But why is it so fast? Because if you compare with beginningless time and endless future, this 100 years is nothing compared with zillions of years. So this is some reflection on Marananusati. The last slide is a summary. But before I finish with the last slide, just want to share how I was taught how to practice loving on meditation on death. So it's one of the 4 protective meditation: loving kindness, death meditation, Buddha's qualities, and Asubha, which is foulness of the body. So death meditation, we were taught to visualize ourselves on our last days of life, lying on a hospital bed, or in a bed in a nursing home, or at home. We don't know, because for future we don't know. So we just, like when we're sitting meditation, we close our eyes and visualize ourselves, maybe very, very old and thin and scrawny, but we don't really know. Okay, we see ourselves lying in the bed, and then we keep telling ourselves, having the vision of ourselves, we just tell ourselves, I will surely die. I will surely die. I will surely die. So this is how we practice. I will surely die. Observe ourselves, imagine ourselves, and then the last breath. No more after that. And then we keep thinking the idea that we will surely die. This idea, this concept is the object of mindfulness when we're practicing Marananusati. So occasionally you can try. Maybe sometimes you are very stressed, or that you are feeling a little bit restless. You want to anchor your mind. You can visualize that and then realize that you will surely die, and then just accept it, and then feel the priorities of life, that your priority is really in the practice, and continue that this notion that I will surely die. Okay, and then you adjust the mind so that the mind becomes very, very wholesome, full of gratitude, a lot of patience, a lot of compassion. And compassion sometimes may not have, but just a lot of patience, a lot of acceptance, and very, very peaceful, and feel that. So this is the practice of mindfulness on death. Okay, the last slide is my summary. This is a picture of the universe. There are many, many galaxies. Okay, so we are in one of them. Okay, I think we are here. And then among these many galaxies is many, many stars together form the galaxies. Our sun is only one of the stars. And in the sun, there's a solar system, 9 planets. Now I think there are 10. We are one of them. Okay? And in this big planet, actually it's very small. We are only in a small place called Singapore. And then in Singapore, 5 to 6 million people, we are just one. So you can see from the scale of space, we are actually very, very tiny. Then you can still beyond this, you can understand that across time, our life of 100 years is so short. It's like a flash of lightning only. Okay. So this is what the world is blind to. Because we are blind to that and we take everything so seriously, our quarrel with our family or our friends, our anger at our boss or our colleagues, and all the things that we are troubled, that make us sleepless night. But if you look at this scale of time and space, of samsara, of the whole universe, of the whole Cakkavala, our life is so small. And what is really, really meaningful is how to keep the mind pure. If the mind can be kept pure, like many of the seniors that I take care of, dementia, stroke, fracture, many are very, very peaceful. It is not necessary that when you're aging, disabled, or you're dying, you must be unhappy. There are many, many people I've seen. They give me so much inspiration that aging, sickness, and death can be very peaceful if we can manage our mind to keep it wholesome. And these people are of different religions. Okay? So with the mind wholesome, anyone can go to heaven. But only one with the right view, they will make an end to samsara. And that right view is only found in the Buddha Sasana. Okay. So that's all for my sharing. I notice some of you have some questions on chat. Let me just read them out and see whether I can answer. I may not be able to answer all of them. Okay, let's see. Okay, someone who practices mindfulness of death can become depressed. What has gone wrong? Okay, interesting question. May I know that the story you read just now is from which Nikaya? Okay. I will go through all the questions and answer. Dr. Ng can magnify the text. Yes, sorry, I did not see the chat just now. For lay people, the third question is for lay persons without much opportunity for long retreats. Such knowledge of past lives seem impossible. Wouldn't wisdom-based practice seems more suitable since there are many accounts of bhikkhus who were wisdom released without knowledge of past lives? Okay. We cannot verify karma except through testimony of some individuals, but I would base my belief on this as something to take as truth because of faith in the Buddha's teachings. Is that a better way to have this faith? It will be enough for us to try and keep ourselves wholesome. Is it enough for us to keep ourselves wholesome and try to free ourselves of defilements? Some things are intuitively, we know is wholesome, as the Buddha taught in Kalamas. Okay. Question 4. We cannot verify karma except through test. Okay, this is the same. Okay, actually there are 4 questions. Let's tackle them one by one. Some people practice mindfulness of death and becomes depressed. What has gone wrong? Meditation requires the mind to be wholesome. Okay, without clinging on to anything as permanent, pleasurable, self, or beautiful. That means the mind need to be very, very respectful. When the mind is very respectful, it's very respectful and without clinging, okay? When the mind is respectful without clinging into any self, we are very just humble, just mindfulness that we will surely die, then our mind will not be afflicted with aversion. But some of us, we cling on to our life, okay, cling on to our existence, cling on sensual pleasures. And when we practice death, we actually have a lot of fear, okay. So maybe for some of us like that, we are not yet ready. So I recommend practicing loving kindness more. Okay, practice a lot of loving kindness, practice a lot of compassion, okay, and practice anapanasati. But once we are very grounded and very successful in anapanasati, loving kindness, or other kinds of practice, our mind is very wholesome. Then when we actually recall that, yeah, this is actually the truth, that surely we will die. How do we make it such that this life is meaningful and that rebirth will be a good place? Then we will see that actually when my mind is very peaceful, I have no fear of anything, including death. Oh. When the mind is gripped with unwholesomeness, we fear of everything, including a noise made by a neighbor. We can also have fear. So we have to keep the mind wholesome. When the mind is wholesome, it is protected. It's a little bit like vaccinated. Okay, that's why the Buddha says, those who practice mindfulness of death, always know life's priority. Always know that we have to keep the mind wholesome. And then when they keep the mind wholesome, they know that when they sleep, they will have a good sleep. Okay, then they will have no fear for death. When the mind is wholesome, you don't believe me, you try. When our mind is unwholesome, everything we are also afraid. When the mind is wholesome, there's nothing we are afraid. Okay, so that is a secret behind the practice. How to make the mind wholesome? There is a very important teaching in the scriptures. Maybe not emphasized enough, but when I was reading recently the Diamond Sutra, and also examining the scriptures, actually it's all there by the Buddha. And this notion is called right attention, yoniso manasikara. What is right attention? Right attention is attending to an object as impermanent, suffering, non-self, and foul. The habit of us is attending to an object habitually as permanent, pleasurable, self, and beautiful. That is our habit. Every time we see something, we'll attend to them as this, and then we get disappointed, we have hatred. Or that we get gratified, and then we have attachment. Okay? So this yoniso manasikara is the beginning of wholesome or unwholesome mind. It's not yet karma. It's just attending to an object with an approach that is open-minded, without assumption that it is permanent and pleasurable. That is likened to, if I have, imagine this is $100 bill. If I cling on to this like this, this is wrong attention. But if I look at the $100 bill with a hand like this is right attention. Similarly, when the mind, we see our food, we see our parent, we see our son or daughter, and if our mind is not like this, but like that, we will have metta rather than attachment. We will have sense of non-attachment rather than sense of anger. Okay, so the mind state is important. When you have right attention, the mind that follows is automatically wholesome mind, wholesome karma. When you have wrong attention, ayoniso manasikara, wrong attention, you will have wrong perception, the vipallasa. Vipallasa is seeing things as permanent, selfhood, pleasurable, and pure. Those who are educated in Chinese Buddhism, they'll remember this term that's widely used called 常乐我净. 颠倒想. This is called the 四颠倒, the 4 inversions, the 4 vipallasa. If you have wrong attention, you have this wrong perception. When you have wrong perception, you have all sorts of aversion and craving, unwholesome mind. And then if you live life like this, you have wrong views. Ditti. Huh? And wrong view, even though you can practice very well, you keep precepts, you got jhana, you won't give rise to nibbana. Because you have wrong assumption, you have wrong attention, wrong perception, and wrong views. Okay? So, many practice also the same. Metta, loving kindness, sounds very innocuous, sounds very, very straightforward. But if you're not correct, you can actually have attachment. Huh? So, it's not just death that can give rise to unwholesome mind state if you're not well balanced. Loving kindness also can. But loving kindness is easier, okay? And also most of us are, attachment is less of a suffering than aversion. Huh? So this is how I would answer the first question. Okay. May I know that story you read is from which Nikaya? So Dhammapada is from the Khuddaka Nikaya. Dhammapada, and Dhammapada it's just a series of the verses, but behind the verses there are stories. These stories are found in the commentary text. So it is a commentary text to the Khuddaka Nikaya on the Dhammapada. And it's important to have the commentaries, because without the commentaries, without the story, would you know the 4 stanzas, what it means? The stanzas that I read just now? The word is indeed blind. You won't know. You need the stories for you to fully understand the context. Huh? Okay, so let's go to question 3. For layperson without much opportunity for long retreat, such knowledge of past life seems impossible. Wouldn't wisdom-based practice seems more suitable, since there are many accounts of bhikkhus who were wisdom released without knowledge of past lives? It is true that there are people who practice dry vipassana and then realize arahat. Okay, but is it true that they don't know past lives? Did they say that they don't see past lives? I'm not sure. Why? Because according to a sutta in Samyutta, I can't remember which particular one, but it is said that you can only penetrate to realize the Four Noble Truths if you realize all the Four Noble Truths. You cannot only understand First Noble Truth, Third Noble Truth, and Fourth Noble Truth without understanding the Second Noble Truth. The Second Noble Truth is the truth of causations. And the truth of causations is related to craving, existence, non-existence, and sensual pleasures. If it is merely understanding that when I crave, I suffer because I cannot get what I want, aren't we all already enlightened? Because we already know this what? You know, we have already seen people who are addicted to heroin, they suffer so much. So craving leads to suffering. How come we are not yet enlightened? So the understanding of samudaya is not merely like that. You have to understand deeply. And the dependent origination has to be understood. The Buddha says, those who see dependent origination see the Dhamma. Okay? Dependent origination in the suttas as well as in all the other, the commentary text, even in the Suttanta, the commentary text in Abhidhamma, the 12 links of dependent origination necessarily cover the 3 lives. Okay? And the Buddha always talk about past lives, future lives, the Jataka stories, and even in the Sutta, there are many times he talk about this was because of the deeds he did in the past, and so on. Like there's one in Digha Nikaya, he talk about, in the Anguttara Nikaya, he talk about his past life as a teacher called Araka, you know. So, and in the account of his enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, in the second watch of the night, he saw his past lives and all the karma that has resulted in it. So, in order to realize Nibbana, I wouldn't say must understand past lives, but you must understand the mechanism of dependent origination in terms of three, at least multiple lives, how one lead to another. There is one psychic power called Pube Niwasa Abinya. This psychic power is a psychic power. It's different from this practice of dependent origination. In Pube Niwasa, the person with psychic power remembers the names, the time, the place that he was born. Whereas in this practice of dependent origination, in order to practice vipassana, the practitioner only vaguely see this is a monk, this is a dog, this is a deva. Don't know which heaven is from. Don't know which country is this from. Just now the person who said it was Iran-Iraq war, because he saw the dressing, he thinks it is from the Middle East. That's all. He don't know. But in a person who practice Pubeni Wasa, they will know. Okay, where were they? Huh? So related to this question, do we need to recall past lives? I would say you need to understand dependent origination. Can a person who don't practice jhana see dependent origination? I believe can, because as long as you have excess concentration, my understanding of people who practice direct vipassana, they practice the sensations of the body, like rise and fall of the abdomen, and then that is actually wind element. They actually penetrate the four elements, and that can give rise to near jhana. And this near jhana, for some people, they can see many, many things, including memory of dependent origination. May not be in details, but it could be enough for them to penetrate until their insight mature to realize nibbana. Then about layperson, without opportunity for long retreats, such knowledge of past life seems impossible. There is also, this is also very interesting. The weaver's daughter, never practiced. Within a short discourse can realize stream enterer. How come we cannot, right? Well, maybe he was born during Buddha's time and the Buddha was in front of him. True. But the assembly of so many people also born during Buddha's time and the Buddha was in front of them. How come they are not stream enterer? So there is something that we do not know, which is our past karma, our past parami. We do not know our past. So we can never really know that we cannot practice like that. I have a friend, she attended my class in Singapore Buddhist Federation many years ago. And then I shared about Four Noble Truths and so on. And then she asked me about meditation. So I taught her. I'm actually not qualified to teach at that time, but I was able to practice according to the teachings. And so I taught her Anapana. She was able to absorb into fourth jhana, even in Singapore, without going for a long retreat. Her parami was very good. And then after that, I could guide her to do 32 parts of the body. She's a HR person. She's never studied anatomy or what. But 32 parts, what we do is, okay, head, you have to memorize head, hair, body hair, nails, teeth, skin, muscles, and so on, 32 parts. So some of the parts, she don't know what they are, like synovial fluid. She don't know what they are. And so I just tell her, you just practice and the mind will guide you. So she said when she practiced synovial fluid, she immediately see the space in the shoulder joint. And that was interesting to me. Another friend of mine, MLM person, we were doing retreat together for 5 months. When she was practicing kidneys, she looked at the kidney and she saw the structure, the ureters connecting the kidney down, and then the renal arteries and veins connecting to the aorta and the inferior vena cava. She was a lay person. I mean, not a doctor, not an anatomist. She was able to see all this. Okay. But she was in a retreat. But this friend of mine in Singapore, she was able to do so deeply that she could see 32 parts of the body, and then using skeleton, she could feel the sense of this disgust. The disgust in the practice of Asubha meditation is a joyful feeling. I don't know whether you can understand it or not. It's like you're very sick, then you vomit, and this vomit is very shook, that kind of feeling. So when they see this disgust, oh, the joy is very strong. So she was able to get the feeling, and she stayed with the skeleton, and then she practiced White Kasina all the way until 8 jhana, even while in Singapore. I just guided her based on whatever I know, and she could. Why I'm saying this is only later when she practiced past lives, she realized that she had previous life was in heaven, but before that was in Brahma realm. So those from Brahma realms, they can practice very easily, very fast. Deva realm also. So to say that lay people without long retreats, you won't be able to do, well, generally probably true, but we don't know for sure. Okay, some people can practice very fast, even as a layperson in Singapore. But some of us need to go for 1 week retreat. Some people in 1 week retreat can realize first jhana. Some people stay as a monk in the monastery for years and years, also cannot obtain jhana. So we can't say, is it time and must you be a monk or nun or what? There's no such certainty. Huh? We just know that if you're a monk, you keep your precept pure, it is very good karma. And the life as a monk is very conducive for that kind of practice. We only know that. Okay? So this is how I would answer this question 3. Okay? Then we cannot verify karma except through testimonial from some individuals. But I would like to base my belief on this as something to take as truth based on faith. Is there a better way to have faith? It would be enough for us to try and keep ourselves wholesome and keep. Okay. Yes. If you can have faith in karma, I would say sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Because the belief in the law of karma is a very important requisite for practicing the Noble Eightfold Path. The first aspect of the Noble Eightfold Path is right view. Right view in the Great 40s, this sutta called Great 40s, Majjhima Nikaya, very important sutta. The Buddha explained right view. Right view with taints is a belief in the law of karma. Right view without taint, that means it's pure, is a view of the Four Noble Truths. This is for noble disciples, those who have at least penetrated the first stage of enlightenment. So the rest of us, we need to have faith in the law of karma. But some people, maybe, after they read the Kalama Sutta, they think that the Buddha don't encourage blind faith. You don't believe in law of karma just because the Buddha says so. Then they don't subscribe to it. And as long as they don't deny it, I think there's still hope, okay? If you deny, then I think it's very hard for you to embark on the Buddha's teachings if you don't believe in the law of karma. So the first part, the law of karma is very hard to verify. So we go by faith. I agree. And I think it's very important. The Buddha in Kalama Sutta only say, you don't believe in something just because it is said by a teacher or just because of blind faith or what, just because of faith. But it doesn't say you must not have faith. Okay? So we trust something not just because there is faith. It's also because of the Buddha and his stories. And also the teachings are very coherent. And also even using logic, it seems very logical. And also my best friends are all Buddhists. All these circumstantial kind of supports create a condition for us to believe in something. But only when you practice dependent origination, then you will overcome all doubts. This is as described in Visuddhimagga, when the stage of purification, where you purify by overcoming doubts, that is when you understand dependent origination, that nothing occurs without a cause. And the cause is related to ignorance, craving, clinging with karma. as the driving energy, resulting in this life. And the past life is also due to the causes, ignorance, craving, clinging. And then there is karma that result in the last life. The mechanism is like this. You may be, for example, some of us, we pay respect to the Buddha, we offer flower almost robotically. But maybe we look at the Buddha, we like the Buddha, we like the idea of being with the Buddha. And then this karma, before we die, when we are very drowsy, having maybe delirium, confusion, low oxygen, some of our, if you've seen people die, they are confused. They may be sleeping, they may be dreaming. They cannot control what they think. Okay, during this period, maybe they'll remember the flower offered to the Buddha due to some of the random thoughts that they have. And then this aspiration to be with the Buddha result in them passing away, reborn in a place where there's Dhamma, maybe as a human, maybe as a Deva or a Brahma. And then the karma is that of offering the flower. Or some of us, we are parents to our children. When we cook for our children, we have a certain attachment to being a mother. Okay? We have attachment to our children, and then we cook with wholesome mind. But there is, before this cooking with wholesome mind, there is attachment, ignorance, and clinging to our children and being a mother. So this attachment, clinging, and craving, supported by wholesome karma of cooking. When we die, amongst all the random thoughts is this action of cooking for our children. And then we die. We are reborn as a woman, and then we'll have lots of children. And then our past life children become our relatives again. And by understanding dependent origination, many of us could understand why our lives turn out like this. Why am I a doctor? Why am I having this particular personality? Why do I fall in love with this person and not that person? All these things, the past can explain part of it, because we cannot remember all the past. We can only remember some of them. So they can actually, when you practice this understanding, you start to have many of your questions answered. Many of our past lives are traumatic. And so there are many things that can trigger the trauma in us in this life. So some of us can feel low mood, feel anxious due to a certain thing. Some people are afraid of cats for no good reason. Some people are afraid of cockroaches. Some people are afraid of heights. So all of us have got different paths. That's why we have a certain different tendencies. So all these, we can depend on faith. But once you practice dependent origination, you have no more doubts about law of karma. Okay? Is it enough for us to try to be wholesome, to free ourselves from defilements? Yes, you can try to be wholesome. It's the same teaching as try to be mindful day by day. But when you are stricken with severe challenges, like for example, you have got COVID-19, you're in ICU, you can die anytime. It's not easy to remain wholesome. Or that when a lot of bad things happen, it's very hard to remain wholesome. You ask yourself, why? What is all this for, And then it's very hard to be wholesome unless you have some explanation. There is a sociologist, I'm digressing a little bit, a sociologist who examined resilience his name is Aaron Antonovsky, very famous in the 70s. He examined the survivor of the Nazi concentration camps, the women survivor, and found that many of them were very resilient. And 27% remain resilient, compared with 50% of people who have not gone through concentration camp. So why were they resilient? So interviewed them and found that people who are resilient has got these three qualities. They have a certain belief that whatever happens is explainable, is somehow predictable, but they may not fully know the reason. And also whatever happens, they can manage. They believe that they can manage. They have the resources to manage. And the third one is They believe that managing these challenges is meaningful. Those who believe in these three things, they survive very severe hardship. That by going, like a mother who is very poor, working many jobs in order to take care of 4 children when the husband passed away. This is suffering, but there is a purpose, it's meaningful. So this mother can go through this because there is a reason that it's meaningful for her to go through this. And she believes she can. And that there is explanation behind all this, even though she don't understand. So these three gives you the resilience. Say you are a partial Buddhist. You only practice mindfulness. You don't want all the thing about law of karma, past life, future life. Okay? Then you're suffering very badly for some reasons. Maybe cancer or something, or COVID-19 affecting a lot of your loved ones. And then you cannot have an explanation. Okay? And you may not feel meaningful to overcome it. I think it's very tough, to stay mindful. So I would say that it's not just mindfulness or wholesome mind alone. You need to have wisdom. That's why sati sampajanya always come together. Mindfulness and wisdom always must come together. And mindfulness alone is not exclusive to the Buddhists. All people, anybody can be mindful. A lot of religion can be mindful, but they may not have the right view. When you don't have right view, whatever you do can be challenged. Okay, let's go on to 2 new questions. Do you conduct meditation sessions on Zoom? Do you give instruction on Maranusati? I have started. It was on invitation by Singapore Buddhist Mission. So we conducted the class during the circuit breaker. So it's very interesting. 8 classes, and then now once a month we'll gather for sitting. I wouldn't say I can. I would say I can share. Sayalay told me I can also teach, but I am not ready to be a teacher. I'm ready to share what I know. So maybe I now I'm quite busy. I won't conduct. I mean, I have no plans to conduct meditation sessions. But if you're like, occasionally, I can come by once in a while. But we can. In December. In November, we are gathering with social distancing in Botanic Gardens. Maybe we can meditate together. But let's see how it goes, lah. I think. I may not be able to conduct meditation sessions. Sorry about this. I don't know why my work is very busy. So anyway, I hope I've answered the question sufficiently, and I've done my best in answering. They're all very tough questions. So I've finished my sharing. Okay, the stories they're found online. I checked with Pa Auk Sayadaw before. Can I share? Because when I read it, I felt very happy. Then he said, only suitable for people with faith. So I think, then I checked with Richmond yesterday. Should I share this story? He said, yes, the BDMS, many people have very senior Buddhist practitioners, have faith in the law of karma and past life, future life. So that's why I share. So that's it lah. So thank you very much for your attention. Julian, maybe you can take over. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ng.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Ng. Thank you very much for your sharing. I'll do the closing now. Appreciation. We are grateful to the Triple Gems and many other supporting conditions that make this talk possible. We also thank Dr. Ng Wai Chong for spending time and effort to prepare and instruct us on the deeper aspects of the Dhamma. We appreciate our fellow Dhamma seekers who listen in and those who ask many interesting questions. We hope that they will continue to attend and review these talks again to gain deeper insight into the Dhamma. Dedication of merits. Let us dedicate the merits from participating in this wholesome Dhamma activity to our departed relatives and friends. Idam me nyatinang hotu sukhita hontu nyatayo. Idam me nyatinang hotu sukhita hontu nyatayo. Idam me nyatinang hotu sukhita hontu nyatayo. Closing chant. Mano pumbang kamma dhamma mano seta mano maya manasache padutena vasati va karoti va tato nang dukkhaṃ mang vedi chakang va vahato padang. Mano pumbang gamma dhamma mano seta mano maya manasache pasanena pasati va karoti va tato nang sukhang mang vedi chaya va anapayini. Tato nang sukhang mang vedi chaya va anapayini. Tato nang sukhang mang vedi chaya va anapayini. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you very much, Dr. Ng.
Thank you.